Imagine spending 40 hours in a practical exam, enumerating and exploiting the system, capturing flags, and writing a super detailed report, and then you finally press the submit button, just to fall short by 1 point. This situation became a reality for me, and in this video, we're going to dive into how I failed the PT1 by 1 point. Hi, I'm Noah, and I recently passed the PT1. Wait, you said you just failed. What the heck? I know, and we'll get into that. But before we open that can of worms, let's explore what the PT1 actually is, how it's formatted, and some questions that you should ask yourself before you attempt to do TryHackMe's most recent Junior Penetration Tester certification. Before we dive into my experience, I want to talk about the exam format itself. How many sections are there? How is it graded? What does TryHackMe say about their own exam? And I'm going to flip over here to TryHackMe's website, and reading about the PT1, it says the Junior Penetration Tester, or the PT1, certification is an entry-level, hands-on, and built by industry experts. Demonstrate your real-world adversarial thinking, validate your offensive skills, and kickstart your career. Okay, fair enough. And I'm reading this as it's TryHackMe's first certification in general. It's not their first certification, but it's their first offensive certification. So they're putting a lot into it. And to be honest, I think they did a pretty good job. But let's keep scrolling down. And there's some things here that I don't agree with. I'm going to go and touch on that a little later in the next section when I talk about my experience. But scrolling down, they actually do a great job about breaking down the key skills that are evaluated in the PT1. So you're going to understand core security principles across 3 different domains. And this is really, for me, what stands out from the PT1 against other certifications is there's multiple domains that you have to attack. You're essentially doing 3 different penetration tests, right? You're doing an AppSec, so that's just like a web app, a network security exam, and then an Active Directory environment. So you're getting foundational knowledge in all 3 of these sections. And they also say, hey, you need offensive frameworks to do that. I agree. You need to attack the OWASP top 10. You need to do privilege escalation. You need to do report writing. And then obviously you need to have the mindset of a penetration tester. So let's keep going down. And they have this is what I was looking for. I was looking for this graph that compares other junior certifications to the PT1. And you can kind of see here they're making comparisons to the PJPT. So I took the PJPT, and I think I'll make another video comparing these two. But yeah, it shows that they do have all 3 of these domains at a pretty low cost. So this is definitely going to be a factor for you if you're looking for a budget option that provides a ton of learning. PT1 might be for you. And then here's some more exam details about how it's structured. So unlike other practical exams that I've taken in the past, they've been multi-day. PT1 is multi-day, but it's a little shorter. You have a 48-hour window to complete the exam at your own pace. It's not proctored. So you don't really need to schedule anything in advance. You can kind of just sit down, take it whenever you're ready. Also, it is pretty cheap, right? $297 for the entire certification. And you also get something that I didn't know is you get 3 months of TryHackMe Premium for free if you buy the certification. So yeah, and here it just says that. So learning included. So you get 3 months of premium access to, I guess, certain paths, maybe not the entire platform, but you get premium access to the paths that you need to study for the PT1, which I thought was incredibly generous and was really helpful for my studies as well. And of course, you get 1 free retake. So if you don't pass on the first time, you can get a free retake there. Keep scrolling down. You can build certifications, blah, search marketing, and then there's some FAQs. But the big structure here is the 3 different domains. And I think that is really what sets PT1 apart from other certifications. And I already kind of mentioned it, but you have 3 separate penetration tests that you're completing in this, excuse me, that you're completing in this 48-hour window, and they're completely separate and different from each other, right? You have an Active Directory pen test, something that you'd see for the PJPT, maybe. You have a web app pen test, maybe something you'd see for like a web certification. And then you have a network pen test, which is sort of just, I was a little confused when they confronted me with a network pen test, but it was pretty rudimentary, to be honest, and it wasn't anything special. You pretty much just got a couple boxes that you had to enumerate, exploit, do all that jazz. But that is it for what the PT1 really is. Now, I want to dive into some of my personal opinions on this, okay? Now, of course, TryHackMe is not, they have no influence on this video at all. This is my personal opinion and how I thought my exam went, how my experience was with the exam, and all of that stuff. Now, obviously, I cannot disclose any exam details. That's severely against policy, but I can tell you some of the thoughts, feelings I have about the certification in general, and then we're going to dive into how my exam went sort of hour by hour. So to start, the offensive security certification that gets you hired. I don't know if I agree with this. Simply because, so industry recognized, it says trusted by 5.5 million users, TryHackMe is the world's largest cybersecurity platform. That is true. Built by industry experts, it equips you with skills valued by top cybersecurity employees. Now, I don't think that PT1 is industry recognized. I just don't think it is. It's so new of a certification that it is impossible for HR and job postings to have it updated, right? Us in the cybersecurity community are always knowledgeable about the new certifications that's coming out, or oh, TryHackMe released this, or Hack the Box released this, or TCM's coming out with a new certification. We are aware of all of that, but the HR and the hiring managers are not. They're not really paying attention to the specific cybersecurity certs that are coming out. They're sticking to what is recognized and has been recognized for the past 5 or 10 years. Think about your OSVP. Like even PNPT, which I made a video about, go check it out. The PNPT is a pretty old exam at this point. It's been about 4 or 5 years since the PNPT released, and it's just catching up to HR standards. It's just showing up on job postings and job applications. So saying that the PT1 is industry recognized may be a bit of a stretch. I think in 5 years, hey, maybe it will show up and it will be a pretty common thing, but it's similar to every certification. If you get the certification, it's not going to guarantee you a job. It's not going to guarantee you a position. So that's my little rant on the PT1 being industry recognized. Next, I want to talk about the flexible learning, and this part I 100% agree with. TryHackMe's learning paths that they provide to you is top tier. Top tier. You learn everything that you need for the exam, and they do a great job of doing it. If you've used TryHackMe for a long time, which I have, you know how good the platform is. It is a great platform. And they give you the step-by-step rooms and tasks and paths that you need to do good on the exam. And I think they do a great job of that. Comprehensive training for all skill levels, 100% agree. Fits around your worker studies, 100% agree. So they give you access for 3 months, is what they said on their marketing down there. So you get 3 months of premium to study for the exam. And I think I took about 2 or so months to get through a lot of the things, a lot of the rooms. I don't think I got through all of it because there is a lot of content there. But if you've been playing TryHackMe for a long time and you don't have this exam, I think you are in a perfect position to pursue it because you've already done a lot of the rooms and you've already learned a lot of the skills that you'll need here. Scrolling down more, certification built for the real world. And then they scroll down here and they show what the reporting looks like. And this is where I'm going to start talking about my personal experience with the exam. So grab some water, drink your water, kids, stay hydrated, and then we're going to jump straight into my experience with the PT1. Now that you're hydrated, let's talk about my exam experience. So from the 3 sections, in my opinion, the easiest to hardest, the first one that I tackled and the most easiest for me was the network section. And the network section reminded me a lot of just a general CTF steps, right? You would scan the network, you'd find open ports, you'd enumerate those ports, you'd exploit those ports, and then you would do some lateral movement or priv-esc, and then you'd write your report, right? Very not simple, but rudimentary when it comes to generic capture the flag stuff. And of course, TryHackMe doesn't market it as a CTF, no certification does, but that's just how it felt for me. So network was the easiest. It was pretty easy, just really generic steps, which, okay, that's fun. That was the first thing I targeted. It was the first thing that I fully compromised. Next on my list was Active Directory. So Active Directory, keep in mind, the context here is I'd just taken the PJPT and the PNPT, which was 5 or 6 months of pretty intensive studying. So my Active Directory was feeling really confident, and I think it translated well to the exam. The AD in TryHackMe was a little more involved technically than the PNPT or the PJPT, but it was still relatively easy. I think it was still relatively junior level, and I think they nailed it on the head there with the skill level of needed to compromise the 80 portion of the exam. So if I had to rank the sections from hardest to easiest, the hardest for me personally was web app, and I think a lot of people share that. The second hardest was Active Directory, and the third hardest, or the easiest in this case, was the network section. So the web app was very difficult, and I think the web app was a little more intermediate than junior level, and I think they did a really good job with the web app. I think the design, the functionality, so the idea behind it, I think it was a really great web app for testing, for penetration testing. I think they did a great job designing it. And it was difficult. It was really hard, and it took me the majority of my exam to do. So network was about 1 to 2 hours at the start. Then I took a break. I did AD for 4 or 5 hours. It took me a little longer than I anticipated, but finished AD. And then I had about a whole day and a half worth to do the web app test. And I didn't even complete all of it. I think out of the 10 flags that were present on the web app, I only got 7 or 8 of them. So I did not compromise the entire web app. And still to this day, I'm curious about what the attacks were supposed to look like, because obviously, I don't know, I didn't do them. But it was still enough to get a passing score, and we'll talk about that in a second. But certainly the web app is the hardest portion of this exam. If you want to be successful with the PT1, you need to really work hard to clean up on your web app stuff, understand all of the OWASP top 10s, do proof of concepts, practice, because this exam is tough for web app. But after you do all that, you complete your 3 sections, you gather your flags, let's talk about the report. And I'm gonna flip over again to this screen, and this is what the report format looks like. And it's not a, I was really disappointed with the report section of the exam, because this is not a pen test report. This is not a professional report at all, right? PJPT, PNPT, TCM security, those are professional reports. Those are what reports should look like. These are just text boxes, right? How am I supposed to convey the vulnerability without a screenshot? You can't put screenshots in these. It's just text. And so I was really disappointed when I saw this as my reporting, because it was not realistic at all. And this was my second biggest gripe with the exam, just because I felt like I couldn't convey the vulnerabilities I found. I couldn't use screenshots. I couldn't use sort of walking through the steps, and it was just rattling and a little disappointing. You can see like you have an overview, you have a vulnerability type. So for example, they put SQL injection. How severe is the vulnerability? So you have to calculate the CVSS score, which I thought was cool. And then just you have to describe the vulnerability and then describe the remediation to fix that vulnerability. So in theory, this is a decent report format. But again, the lack of screenshots for me is what killed the entire thing. I just felt like I was so limited and I had to really flesh out my ideas through text that it hurt me in the end. And speaking of hurting me in the end, after I finished my reports for all three sections, right? Because you have 3 different reports you need to write. You need to write one for the web app, you have to write one for the network, and you have to write one for the AD. You click submit, and instead of it taking about a week to get your results back, you get your results back instantly. And it's not voodoo magic. It is an AI grader that grades your exam based on text, which is why you can't add screenshots, because it's an LLM that is grading your exam. It's just text-based. And the community has had a lot of mixed opinions about this, right? On one hand, you get your results instantly, which is fantastic. It's really cool to get your results instantly. You don't have to wait. You don't have to be anxious about what you got. But on the other hand, it can make mistakes. Like all AIs, it can make mistakes. And it certainly made a mistake for my exam. I scored a 749 on my first attempt of the PT1. The score to pass is a 750. And that originally, of course, was very rattling, but looking deeper, I found something a little more shocking. See, after you get your grade back, you can actually dig into the results and the AI will give a review about, hey, you did this well, could have done this a little better. And I think that's great. I think that the AI giving feedback like that is great, unless the feedback is wrong. So my biggest gripe with this, and this is why my score got changed, is the AI suggested me to do something that I already did. It said, hey, you should include these kind of bullet points in your report, when the report I submitted included those kind of bullet points. And that is when I got really frustrated, because I just spent 40 hours doing this exam and I captured all the flags necessary to get a passing score. I think out of, maybe there's 10 flags total, actually. I think I'm remembering. I think there's 10 flags total that you need to capture across all 3 domains, and each flag is worth 100 points. So if you capture 8 flags, 800 points, you're in the clear. But the report is where it really, of course it makes sense that the report is valued and weighed heavily, but I felt like I wrote a good report and the AI didn't. And because the AI didn't, I failed the exam. Thankfully, these kind of discrepancies can be argued, and that's exactly what I did. So TryHackMe recognizes, and shout out to TryHackMe, they are incredible for doing this. They recognize that their AI can make mistakes, and I simply pointed out, sent them an email, said, hey guys, I think I would like a regrading because the AI grader told me to do these bullet points, and in my report you can literally see I did these bullet points, so I'd like a regrading. Now, if I had failed by more than 1 point, maybe I'd just retake the exam and try again, but at the end of the day, it was 1 point. And those bullet points that the AI didn't see could have easily changed my fail to a pass. And after I emailed them, they said, hey, we'll look into this. And I think they have a very big backlog of situations similar to mine, because it took about a month for my exam to get regraded. but I did get regraded and they did pass me by 1 point, which I thought was pretty funny, to be honest. So I passed the PT1 by a score of 751 instead of anything higher, but fair enough. I got the pass, and that is all that matters. Now that we've got my whole experience out of the way, let's do some reflection. So what did I like? What did I not like? Let's talk about it. So I think that I liked the PT1 for the general majority of the exam and the certification as a whole. I think if you are new to cybersecurity, new to offensive security, and you want to get into it, the PT1 is a great starting point. I think that the course material and them providing you 3 months of freemium access and to that course material, I think the material is great and you can learn a ton from going through this course and preparing for the PT1. I learned so much in those 2 months of studying that alone was worth it. Right? Even if I failed my exam and if I didn't get a pass, it was still worth it purely because of the learning aspect. And that's something that is important to recognize. You should be doing certifications for the knowledge of the certification, not because you get a pretty little thing you can post on LinkedIn. While that's certainly a benefit, it really matters. What really matters is the knowledge you gain, right? The rooms you complete, the notes you take, anything that gets stuck in that brain. That is what really matters. So I really enjoyed that portion of the exam process. However, I don't think I liked the certification itself as much. I think it loses a lot of credibility with the AI grader, and it loses a lot of credibility with the report being the way it is. Not having to generate a PDF report with images and screenshots and executive summaries and all that, I think it loses credibility because of that. I think PNPT, PJPT do a great job of explaining how these reports work and why they matter. But with the PT1, it felt very unprofessional. It says you're doing a professional report, but it felt unprofessional. Typing in text boxes and doing bullet points, it didn't feel right. And because of that, I think that the PT1 loses a little bit of credibility, and that's the major reason, that and the AI grader is the major reason why I think the exam and the certification falls a little short for me. Would it have been worth it if I had paid the $300? I think 100% yes. I think this exam is worth what you are buying. I think it's worth the $300. The pure vastness of what you're paying for is so worth it. Again, 3 different domains, 3 sections that you are attacking: AD, web app, network. I don't think that there is another exam similar to this where you have to attack all 3 in such a short time frame. So you have to learn wide and deep, which I think the PT1 and TryHackMe teaches very well. So I think 100% it was worth it for me personally I guess I got it for free, but if I was to buy it, I'd 100% buy it again and learn the material that is worth the $300, 100%. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about you for a second. Should you take the PT1? Well, of course, it depends. If you want a good challenge and you're a beginner in the field, I think that the PT1 is a fantastic jump box. I think it's a fantastic point to start if you have minimal prior knowledge, because again, breadth and depth, right? You get both of them by doing this exam and doing the certification and doing the course. So if you're looking for knowledge, if you're looking to learn, the PT1 is a fantastic course, a fantastic exam for you to take. However, if you're looking for a top tier certification that's going to look great on your resume and you're trying to get a job instantly, the PT1 probably isn't for you. This isn't the OSCP, and hiring managers don't even know of its existence yet. So if you're looking for a premier top of the line certification, I don't think the PT1 is for you. But if you are looking for knowledge, if you're looking to widen your arsenal of tools and techniques and learning more about vulnerabilities, I think that the PT1 and TryHackMe does a great job with that. So with all that being said, go out there, make your decision. If you have already taken the PT1, let me know down in the comments. Did you enjoy it? How did your exam go? Did you get cooked by the AI grader? Let me know. But that'll be it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for staying till the end. Hope you have a fantastic day. Happy hacking.